Well, hello, students. Here in this next phase, we're going to talk about Learning Objective 4, which is the organizational approach to decision making. And there are two things that we're going to look at. We're going to be looking at bounded rationality and the garbage can, so to speak, approach. So when we talk about the organizational psychology based decision making, we're looking at the core of how decisions are being made. For example, when you look at, and if you want to follow along with your books and your PowerPoints, if you can look at organizational psychology, that approach says that most decision makers can't rely on what is referred to as perfect information. It would just take too long. It would cost too much money. So what they do is they look at something called bounded rationality. And bounded rationality, in your definitions, is the process where decision makers are forced to act, but they need to rely on limited information and time constraints when making a decision. More than likely, as leaders, you would know that you never have 100% of the information that you need when making a decision. So, with limited information, bounded rationality means we need to look at the time it would take to make the decision, how important that is, and also how much money would it cost as we, as they say, perseverate or wait too long to actually make a decision. So, bounded rationality suggests that perfect rationality and objectivity, and this is right out of your book, sought by rational decision makers is never fully achieved. So, what would that mean? That would mean that we are bounded by certain constraints. All right? Like, for example, when you go and interview someone, on paper they might look great, they might interview well, they have all of the credentials that you're looking for, but then when you actually get down and see them work, they're not what you expected. So a manager can't really give 100% of probability, unless you're robotic or something, to know how something is going to turn out. So here again, we don't know that we can rely on complete objectivity when going through the decision-making process. I'm sorry. So what we look at essentially is a situation where we look at what they refer to as satisficing. And satisficing is a decision that is not based on perfect information and pure objectivity. Satisficing is making a decision that isn't good enough to solve the immediate problem, but it is necessary. I'm sorry, it is good enough to solve the immediate problem with all 100% of the information, but not necessarily the best decision that is possible. So that leads us into okay, what is the organizational psychology based approach from a behavioral sense to decision making? Since most decisions are based on, and I've referred to this before, less than perfect information, we have to draw conclusions that are not 100% based on pure objectivity. So we call that the garbage can model of decision making. So the garbage can model of decision making, and if you go into your definitions, it's a model that views decisions as making as irrational process, but rather infused with emotions, politics, and other factors. In other words, there could be some mitigating factors that come into making a decision when we don't have all the information and we don't have the time to really solve the problem or get it right. Okay, so that is really um, influenced by the theorist James March, M-A-R-C-H, who describes decision making in organization as a, quote, collection of choices looking for problems, issues, and feelings, looking for decision situations in which they must be aired out, and solutions looking for issues for which might be the answer and decision makers are looking for. So March turns around and he says, okay, the decision making process is just what it is. It's a process, but it's not always systematic. He says it's like a garbage can into which various problems and solutions are dumped into by participants. So that's right out of your book. So what does it mean? It means that decision making in most cases is not always systematic and rational, but we can build models based on limited information. Okay, I want you to reflect on this phase 3 right now. Take a couple of minutes to do that.